I feel like when it comes to shame, the thing that is really motivating us to just barely get by is fear. And when we feel ashamed, we kind of try to procrastinate. And we don't see that we're kind of ourselves in every moment. We feel like there's an end fate that we're going to meet. Like when we're ashamed of ourselves and we think that we ain't shit, or like we're just gonna die, or like we just lose at everything, we don't feel like we're showing up to any circumstance as ourself, where things can be open-ended. And if things go in a way we don't really like or didn't intend, we kind of feel guilty, but we feel like we can show up next time with our intentions intact and have a potentially different outcome. So there's like hope, there's chance, there's curiosity as well. Like you don't have it all figured out. But when we feel ashamed of ourselves, we feel like we already know the end goal, because the end goal is just going to reflect how we feel about ourselves. And if we feel like a loser, we feel like no matter how many times we win, it's just going to end up that we end up losing, and it just confirms how we feel about ourselves. So we don't show up to any situation fully. We feel like we'll show up at the end when all is said and done. And this is kind of where I feel like the notion of fate is closely linked with shame. Like the more ashamed we are about ourselves or about something, the more we feel like we have no control, and we just need to let it spiral until it reaches its fate. It's kind of different than when you're not ashamed and you're just being yourself. Like when we're ashamed of ourselves, we don't show up to opportunities fully accepting and present, and like things are open-ended and they can go any kind of way. When we're ashamed of ourselves, we show up to everything already having quit. We already gave up. We already decided it's going to be a certain way. And it's interesting how when we're ashamed of ourselves, what we're actually doing is letting things spiral out of control and giving all our power away, and we're truly putting ourselves in a position of powerlessness. But we think that we're in control, because I feel like when we're ashamed of ourselves, what we're really afraid of is vulnerability. We're afraid of exposure, and we're afraid of humiliation. So we want to basically seal our fate in advance because we don't want to risk a possible outcome. So it feels to us like we are remaining powerful, but it's like the opposite. I've been thinking about this a lot because this whole thing I've only just now like conceptualized it and put it into perspective, but all these different themes of things that I was ashamed of, or situations where I thought I'd already met my fate, or it's just a matter of time, or I'm screwed, and it sends me into a depression, a very nihilistic point of view. It was just like this week that I like found out a way to put it all into perspective. And I can actually like feel the energy behind each of the like frequencies of each of these emotions. And around this time last year, I was thinking about hope as well. Because I think I was processing more than I was aware of, but I definitely felt like I was going to die at any moment. And then I don't even know fully what I was going through. It'll come to me later. But this is just like a general, like kind of abstract understanding of shame and guilt, and how guilt is kind of like a lighter version of the same energy that shame is, but when you're ashamed, it's like compacted. It feels unredeemable. It feels like it can't be transmuted. But really, I just think that shame is a very, very dense version of what guilt is. And just like shame and pride are basically two sides of the same coin, they're basically the same emotion. But you notice how when you see people who are prideful and arrogant, they're so dense. It's literally the same energy. It's just the polar opposite of it. Like when you see people who are prideful and arrogant, you sometimes want to tell them they're stupid, but you can't tell them that because they're delusional. You can't. Like when someone's prideful, you can't get through to them. It's the same with being shameful. And just like shame is basically a defense mechanism against feeling exposed and vulnerable, pride is the same thing. When people are prideful, usually it's because they got their ego hurt, they got their feelings hurt, so now their ego just like goes into overdrive and just like I don't know how to describe it yet. But it's still just as dense as shame is. Sometimes I feel like if we're looking at things like, I can visualize it in my head, like the most dense is shame and then pride, they're the same thing, and then above that, the lighter version of it is pride, and I think it's humility. I think a lighter version of pride is humility. Yeah. I feel like guilt and humility are kind of the same energy, just expressed in polar opposite ways. Did I say shame? I meant pride. Fuck. I'm done talking. I meant guilt and humility. I feel like they're basically the same thing. Yeah. I didn't even realize that all the videos that I've put in my monologue section, they all kind of come full circle into all these different theories and realizations I have, just coming full circle, and they're all interconnected. I don't know how many videos are on there. There's probably more, because I never stop thinking about stuff, and I never stop realizing stuff. But yeah, with how close the energy frequency of shame is to actual death, the energy frequency of death, it makes sense why when you've succumbed to shame, the next step is just to seal your fate and to die. Like, you already put yourself in the casket and nailed it shut, and now nothing can get in. You can't survive. So it's just a matter of time before it spirals into death. And this is why I say that shame is basically the sole thing that creates karmic cycles for ourselves. And if you ever heard saying oh, they met their fate, or it's karma, it didn't have to be that way. There's nothing that says that you can't outsmart karma, you can't set yourself free. I have outsmarted karma quite a few times because I don't believe that I'm fundamentally bad. Like, when I did things that people thought was fucked up, or they wanted me to think I'm a bad person at my core, I'm not ready to die. So it doesn't make any sense for me to be ashamed of myself. But a lot of people, a lot of people are walking around ashamed of themselves and they don't want to admit it. So when they get screwed over, or somebody makes a mistake or someone hurts them, they want to inflict the most massive punishment possible on them because they want to project their own shame onto the other person, and they want to see that person meet a fate that is just as heavy as what they want for themselves. Like, so I got involved in a court case when I was 20. I was 20. Yeah, I was 20. In 2018, because I was dealing drugs. And the bitch in student conduct, this is what I think. She wanted to inflict the most massive punishment on me possible, even though I was literally peer pressured into doing it. And she just wanted to override all of the circumstantial things, and that overall I was a 4.0 student. I was on the dean's list. She just wanted to override everything, and she wanted to demonize me as a bad student, and she wanted me to lose my entire education, and she wanted me to get a felony and go to prison. That's what she wanted. And she even said it when we were on the trial. She said she deserves to lose her whole education. She didn't want me to have the option to transfer schools or to do anything to rectify myself or explain myself. She just wanted the worst punishment possible for me. And I was feeling her for months because the trial was dragged out. I feel like she felt like she was ashamed of herself because she chose the wrong career. She hated her job, and she felt like all there was left for her to do was retire because she'd been at it for so long. So I feel like she wanted to, when she would get cases for kids who misbehaved in school, she wanted to give them the most massive punishment possible. And she wanted to get them out of the school and fuck up their lives, because what she really wanted was to quit her job. And so she projected that shame of her choosing the wrong career onto every kid that she got a case for, and wanted to see them like they chose the wrong choice. Now you're screwed. Now your life is over. And fuck you. And that's what she tried to do to me. I still feel, fuck her. Fuck that bitch. But it didn't turn out that way. I did get in trouble, but it wasn't as extreme as what she wanted for me. Because I don't believe that I'm a bad person. I don't identify as a drug dealer. I don't identify as anything. I was making choices on impulse. And when you try being peer pressured, you try being vulnerable, and your friends are already bullying you, and your ego's already hurt, and you're already emotionally pulled all over the place because your feelings are all over the place because it's fucking college and you're emotionally unstable. You try being in a high pressure, peer pressure fucking situation and see what you do when someone's cornering you in the bathroom saying they need it. They need your medication because it's finals and they don't want to fail, and blah, 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 and you're trying to make friends, and you don't want them to fail either, and you don't want them to hate you for it, and you don't want them to blame you for it, and you don't get ganged up and bullied and all kinds of shit. Who knows what 20-year-old girls will do when they get in a group and they hate you? You don't fucking know. So, first of all, everyone who has anything to say about how I was in college can kiss my ass. And you don't know what you will do in a situation until you are in the situation. So I don't give a damn what anyone has to say. But I'm getting off topic. What I was saying is that I feel like people who are very vengeful and people who are very just want to punish people feel like their fate in life is punishment. But they want to project it onto other people, so they get involved in fields that are like the legal field. People are drawn into law because a lot of people are religious and they fear Judgment Day and eternal damnation, all that shit. And I know a lot of religious people who are into law and politics and shit. They feel like their end fate is burning in hell or being punished or God being displeased with them. So they project it outwards, and then you have all these people just feeling like the world is gone to shit and there's no hope and blah, blah, blah. Because it's an identity-based thing within them. But a lot of the times, we don't want to face the true depths of how our identity has been structured in our lives, because a lot of it was due to how we were raised and childhood trauma and all this shit. And people want to go out in the world and have a reputation and a persona and status and all these illusionary things that aren't human, like aren't living, breathing things. They're just like fragments of you. So people don't really want to feel all of their vulnerability and potential exposure and humiliation because they want to preserve their reputation, which they built to save their bruised ego. It all comes full circle, but it always goes deeper and deeper. And there's always new angles I can look at things from. Yeah. I want you to get cornered in the bathroom by a girl who said she was going to stab you the first week she met you, and she wants your medication. You see what you do, and you're scared, and you want to make friends. I want to see what you do. Then you can tell me I'm a bad person. And the funny thing is, as soon as I was out of that environment, I never did it again. I was never pressured into doing it again. And I think I talked about it in a different video, how at the same time I was in a court case, a guy who robbed me of my life savings was in a court case, and I wanted my money back. I wanted it back at any cost. And I was so fucking mad at him that in turn I ended up in a similar situation to him, and then I just had to dismantle my entire ego and my entire anything in me that wanted to punish him, because if I wanted him to get punished, then I would have also wanted myself to get punished. And we were on trial by the exact same people. The exact same cops, the same shit. So it's like, damn, I'm not any better than you. Also, I think that there's a link between the hierarchies that we have in society, our social hierarchies, and how we determine human value, and shame. And we want that shame to be there. We want to shame people who are broke, or we want to shame people who live in certain parts of town, or who are of a certain race, or who have a certain sexuality. That's the whole concept of gay pride week and all that shit. It's because in society, traditionally, gay people are shamed so that other people can feel proud, and everyone is relying on the other person to embody a certain frequency, like shame, so that the other person can feel the opposite. And so it's like, also the way that societies are set up all around the world need these hierarchies that are based in shame and pride and all this shit, because without them, people will feel very human. It will feel like we're all equal. Things will feel equalized, and we'll feel like when we look at somebody else, we're looking at ourselves. We'll feel so exposed, and we wouldn't have any need for war anymore, or anything that really separates people or makes them think that there's a totem pole that humans are on. I wonder sometimes if shame is innate to humans, because if you saw everyone kind of like as being just as vulnerable as you are, I don't know if we would like kill. I don't know if we would hunt. But I know when I observe animals, like wild animals, I don't know. They seem to be just as vicious as humans are. So I don't know if shame is innate or like something primal, or if we learn it. Yeah.